If you're tired of not making progress and you're ready to be the artist you know you're meant to be, you're in the right place. You're listening to the Singer's Path podcast. The Path, or Performing Artists Training Hub, will cover everything, including singing tips that actually work, advice from top industry professionals, and life-changing mindset shifts. Out with the starving artist and in with the thriving artist. I'm your host, Sarah Bishop, professional singer, actor, educator, and entrepreneur. I'm not afraid to speak the truth and stop the gatekeeping of quality information so you can actually become the artist you dream of being. So let's get on the path, shall we? Even though we're all on our own journeys, it always helps to have a guide. Hello. Welcome back to the Singer's Path podcast. This is your host, Sarah Bishop, and I am so excited to get into this conversation. I'm going to keep this introduction really short. Today, we're welcoming on guest Lily Lothrop, who's one of our associate teachers at Sarah Bishop Vocal Studio. Lily and I originally met. She's one of my students who has her degree in music. She was trained classically, but then she eventually, once we were taking together, she decided she wanted to be a teacher herself, and she has since been trained at the Institute of Vocal Advancement as a teacher, and she's been mentored by some of the best teachers all over the world. So I'm really proud to have her as part of the studio. I'm really enthusiastic for singers to get to connect with her. And this is a great opportunity for you guys to learn even more about her. So without further ado, let's get into the interview. I will say we were having a little bit of technical difficulties with internet connection, and been having a hard time starting up this podcast again, like doing remote interviews. So we did end up having to settle on a Zoom recording. And even though we did record the raw files separately on Audition or Logic, unfortunately, my computer crashed with these recordings. So this is the best one that we were able to come up with for this session. So I apologize about that. And our audio editor is doing our best to give you the highest possible quality audio. But hopefully that doesn't distract too much from this amazing conversation. It is a little bit of a zigzaggy conversation, so hold on to your hats, ADHD folks. I have been a little rusty running these interviews, but we are going to cover a wide array of topics. But I really hope you enjoy this conversation. Let's get into it. Well, thanks for joining me today, Lily, and I appreciate taking the time to sit with me and chat and hang out and have listeners get to meet you a little bit and hear from you.
Hi, listeners. I'm so excited.
Hey, listeners, all 5 of you. So happy that you're here.
All 5 of you. I love every single one.
Love every single singer or artist listening to this. Well, I was just talking to Lily about what we're trying to accomplish here at the Singer's Path and how it's about acknowledging not just the technicalities of singing, but the lifestyle that it is, trying to bring stories together about singers, about what it's like, even if you're, not even a professional, it doesn't really matter. So that we all can just feel a little bit more like we're not by ourselves here. Like, how would you describe the process, Lily, before we get into your background and everything, of studying the voice? I feel like can be a super lonely kind of thing, because you're just by yourself all the time. It's you're by yourself with your teacher, and then you're listening to everybody else and comparing yourself to everyone else and thinking that you're missing something, or thinking you have no idea how these other singers are and where they are in their paths, right?
Yeah, it is definitely, sometimes your success is completely tied to who your teacher is and or / the idea of talent. I think that was a big thing for me, was other people that I knew when I was younger were mixing and belting and singing musical theater, and I wasn't doing that. And I was okay, so I guess I'm just not talented enough, or I don't have the right voice for it. But I also think the teacher I was with just didn't know how to teach that, which is fine. But it wasn't exactly, it didn't feel great, I guess.
It brings up more things that you need to learn or need to understand. It's a never ending well. It's like doing work on your house. You don't really want to go back to the wall because you'll just see more stuff that you need to work on. But it wasn't until I trained as a teacher that I at least knew it was at my disposal. And yeah, I agree. It's I really wish that at that younger age, I had an IVA teacher, if I'm honest, just someone that was a little bit more balanced and a little bit more neutral in their teaching, besides only approaching singing through the lens of choir, or only approaching singing through the lens of classical music, as if that's the only way of studying the voice, right? When did you start to feel, and then we jumped ahead, so then I'll ask you to do your background here, but when did you start to feel like you started to have autonomy over your voice, or did that are you still in that process?
I think I'm for sure still in that process. Autonomy over my voice. That's such a good question. I think I come from the classical music background, which is it feels very rules-y. You are not supposed to put portamentos in Mozart arias. That is stylistically incorrect. And if you do that, people will be mad, or you won't do as well in your audition because you don't understand the style. And I think that's fair, because style is a thing and we want to make sure we're able to understand it and do it. But it didn't feel like you were able to make the song your own. It felt like you had to sing it a specific way. But then everyone was also saying, you have to make it your own. Okay, but how am I supposed to do that if you won't let me change notes or change rhythms or do different styles? It was I feel like I have no wiggle room.
Yeah. How do you make it your own when there's so many rules in place? When you're so afraid of doing it wrong, it almost seems like. And this is a good segue into asking you, just for the listeners, because this is their first time meeting you. Again, Lily is one of our teachers, and she's really explored her music from a classical perspective growing up, and has segued into being a more contemporary teacher after coming and being curious about that style. And it sounds like being curious about that expression. So tell us a little bit about how you did approach music, from a younger age. And I know you mentioned one thing I wish was feeling like we're not comparing ourselves to our peers, or thinking that our success all has to do with just what our teachers are capable of teaching us. Share a little bit about that background with us so we can get to know that end of you a little bit more.
Yeah. I am from a small-ish town in Massachusetts, but very luckily, the arts were a huge part of the community. So there was a lot of local theater happening, a lot of classical concerts, a lot of things were happening. It was a spot where famous artists would sometimes come and make their home and perform. So I got involved at age 7 in children's community theater. And what did we do? We did Madeline's Christmas or something. I was one of the children, one of the orphans who had the hiccups, and that was my bit. But it was a really weird way to get into it. But I was on stage, I performed, I loved it. And then I just kept wanting to do it. Also, I feel if you're my age, which I'm 25, you grew up during the time when Hannah Montana was on TV, and you were just
Hannah Montana.
You were just so into it. You're this seems so fun and cool, and you want to sing all of her songs. I feel that is a big part also for me. I just started singing Hannah Montana songs, and I was maybe I want to sing. We went on a little weird tangent there. But I started singing.
Oh, that's great. Listen, Hannah Montana is the pillar of American and world culture, if we're honest. Probably the pinnacle
a little bit
of culture. And
amazing quality, everything. Thank you, Disney. I'm so sorry, Miley Cyrus.
Thank you, Disney. I'm older than you, so I'm old as fuck. So I'm who was mine? I am Miley's age, right? So we admired Hannah, but we couldn't get too excited. We couldn't be obsessed with it because it wasn't cool to be obsessed with it. But we were we were just too old to be obsessed with High School Musical, but we were secretly obsessed with High School Musical. And then also Lizzie McGuire was more of our thing. Hey now, all of that. Dreams are made of, bitch. We're talking about what was her album Metamorphosis?
Yes. It sounds so weird. Have you listened to it in the last 6 months? It's so weird. The sounds.
I'll get us back on track, but this is more pressing at this point.
Yeah. One of my students, she's 12, 13, middle schooler. So her parents are probably millennials. That's my guess. And she was yeah, my mom really loves this song. And it was the rainfall. What is that song called?
I think it's called Come Clean.
Complete. Yeah. And she's like, my mom really likes this song. And I heard it and I was just like, I feel like I'm in a Limited 2 dressing room. Like, I feel like I'm crying, like just transported back in time.
Transported. I have a core memory surrounding the CD because remember, there was CDs. It was like a CD player and I would listen to it. I had a rotation of like maybe 5 CDs, which looking back was probably a lot as like a younger peep. My very first CD, Jurassic Park, John Williams. Don't ask me why.
So good.
I was obsessed with it. Like, I actually learned to play the trumpet because I love John Williams music so much. That's the instrument I picked in 4th grade, was the trumpet, because of dun, 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 dun.
I mean, I get that.
I'm a singing teacher, obviously, so you can hear me sing so beautifully here as I do my trumpet. Anyway, so that was my first CD. Then I had Hilary Duff was not the next. I think Britney Spears was the next. Baby One More Time, I'd imagine. As like, I think I was like sensibly like 4 years old.
Yeah, that makes
very young. 5, sensibly 5. And then what was my next CD? Oh my God, Backstreet Boys. I was a Backstreet Boy girl. And screw NSYNC. Nah, Lance Bass. Nah, Justin Timberlake. It was Backstreet all the way. I was obsessed with Kevin. Kevin was my favorite. The Zaddy. I was like, I was crushing on like a 40-year-old man at like age 8. I was obsessed with.
I don't think I can name any of the Backstreet Boys. I'm so sorry.
Neither can I. Just Kevin.
Kevin. Only Kevin. What's he doing? Kevin, where are you?
His kids are like older, I think. I don't know. Who's to say? Honestly, we were talking about Hilary Duff and then I spun off. And anyway, I have a core memory of a Come Clean. It's like me, I'm like maybe 3rd or 4th grade, in like the bathroom putting on my Halloween costume for like a Halloween party at Center Township Elementary School in Butler, Pennsylvania. And like getting ready. And I don't know if I was like humming this song. I don't know why, but core memory, me getting dressed as like an angel or something for the Halloween parade at the elementary school. So what's your... So anyway, you were like, I derailed this. I'm like, I derailed that.
We're just going to keep derailing each other.
But again, this is the point. I want the listeners to hear who we are as people. I'm weird. I'm not going to speak for you. I'm weird.
No, I'm weird. I think we're like slightly different flavors of weird, but we're both weird. It's fine.
Yeah. Complementary flavors, like caramel and vanilla flavors of weird. Anyway, okay. Back on track. So this child wants to sing, her millennial mother, I'm assuming, wants her to do Come Clean. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I think she wanted to do it. I think she was just like, my mom really likes this song. It plays in the car or something. Something like similar to that. Yeah, I think so.
It's like my dad listened to Journey in Boston.
And now it's Hilary Duff.
And now it's Hilary Duff.
And like the early 2000s, like emo pop punk stuff.
That's old.
That's the new dad music.
Okay. So if you're a voice teacher listening to this, I want you to dig back into your memories of music that maybe some of these kiddos just have not had the pleasure.
I do this all the time. Keep playlists on my phone of like, these are songs that are good for like soprano chest voice, soprano head voice, soprano mixed voice. And anytime I'm like pressed and I can't find a song, I'm just like, okay, 2012 pop hits, top 40. What have we got? So that's the stuff that I'm just like, this is in my brain forever. I was, riding the school bus in middle school and the driver always had the radio on. It was always the same station. So you would just hear the same songs over and over again.
Just Katy Perry over and over again.
Just the clean version of California Girls over and over again.
So you're saying you're going to assign students California Girls, but only the clean version.
Usually if they're young, I try to look for the clean version if there is one. Because I'm just like, even if they know the words, I'm like, I don't want you to feel awkward because it's technically a bad word and you're not supposed to say it. We're just going to avoid that. We're going to skip over it. We don't need it. It's not important.
They're just going to breeze over that one. Thank you so much.
Over it.
Let's circle all this together then. As voice teachers now, we're talking about like growing up and our training with voice teachers and having a voice teacher that maybe isn't trained to teach the music that we liked then. Pedagogy has changed so much since when we were studying, but I think it's just fascinating to like reflect what are now apparently oldies to these kids are our music. So are we creating this cycle again? Like, are we the ones that are like, oh, you're going to love this song. And meanwhile, the kid's like, I don't like singing Hannah Montana. I think it's lame. Like, I only want to sing Sabrina Carpenter. Like, are we just doing that to them? That's my question.
I mean, I definitely try to take into account what they want to sing, just because if they like it, it's going to go better. Like, just point blank, if they like what they're singing or they already know it, they're going to have a better time. But I do try to, push them a little bit. If we're like doing a bunch of songs and it seems like they already know them like super well, I'm like, okay, we need to pick something that you don't know super well.
Right.
Because I want you to be a little bit challenged. You want them to grow and expand and learn, but you also want them to be comfortable and happy. So there's always a push and pull, I feel like.
You also want them to practice, right? Because like,
yes,
I remember this and like plugging back into like you growing up and singing and studying classically. And like, I did the same thing. Like, I don't know if you can relate to this, but oh my God, my teacher back then, first of all, was not trained to teach the voice. She like taught piano lessons and like, I already had a nice voice. And it was just interesting because then it was like, it almost became like my voice reflected well on her. Like, so everybody in the hometown would be like, oh, like this person's teaching Sarah. Well, she must be a good teacher. Meanwhile, I wasn't really learning anything at all. I was just singing how I sung. And then she would just pick music that like I hated, which was like old school, like so old, like golden age theater songs, which honestly I love singing now. But back then I was like, please let me sing Lizzie McGuire. I would have given my left tit to sing Let the Rain Fall Down. Okay.
Just the left, not the right?
Not the right. Yes. Just disclaimer. This podcast really isn't for the youngins, if you couldn't tell. So
I will not swear in front of your children. I
promise. Yes.
Unless they're listening to this right now. But in a lesson, no.
No. We keep it clean for the kids, but we're not really talking to the kids. We're talking about adult singers and ourselves.
Yeah. No, I started taking voice lessons at like 11 at like my local sort of music school. And the woman I was taking lessons with, she had been on Broadway. I don't know how long she was like in the city doing the thing, but she had moved to where I was and she was mostly singing like jazz and cabaret music. I think the first song she got me to sing was Castle on a Cloud. I feel like that's just...
As one does.
As one does. Too. It's a rite of passage, canon event, I fear, as the kids would say. And then from there, really weird. I didn't sing high at all at that point.
Oh, neither did I. Chest voice only.
Like chest voice only. And I remember trying to sing a G, like a G, 5? Yeah. And I was like, this is too high. I can't do this. And then in middle school, this was probably like a year and a half later, as I started getting older, more of my friends were doing belty sort of stuff. And we were all doing community theater together. And I was not getting any parts. And I was like, why is this happening? This doesn't make me feel good. I had chest voice. I had head voice. I did not have a mix. And it didn't help that I sang everything super classically. Because at some point in there, probably late middle school, early high school, my voice teacher was like, you should sing classical music, and tried to get me to sing, the songs out of the 24 Italian art songs and arias.
Yeah, the arias. Yeah.
Yeah. And I sang like a few of them. I never practiced. Straight up, never sang the things I was supposed to. I didn't practice in college either. I'm so sorry to everyone who's learning that.
Hey, listen. Well, this is why we're talking about this. Like, we're being real. Like,
being so real.
And that's why we're talking about picking rep. That's actually exciting for the student. Like, how as a teacher do you pick rep for a young student that like you think they will like, but like actually at the end of the day, they like it's that bridge between like, is this going to help them grow? And also like, do they like it? And like, I was the same, dude. I was the freaking same. Like, I didn't practice. And even today, I'll have to like schedule something. Like, I'm preparing for a competition, or I'm preparing to film this thing, or I'm doing this thing. I have to be very specific so that I show up and I actually work towards drilling it in, because also more often than not, you're going to have to do that repetition and that drilling physically so that you don't have to think about it, especially if you're learning a brand new style of singing or a brand new way of singing. But like, same, I just like wouldn't practice the stuff that I just didn't like. I would just sing whatever I wanted, and then practicing was like just this willy-nilly, like,
No, absolutely. I just spent so much time sort of skating along because I was, I don't know, naturally good at it or something. Like saying talented feels weird, but
No, you're talented, dude.
thank you.
Professional singer and your teacher. I'll say it. Lily has a great freaking voice. She sounds amazing. So anyway, so she's super talented. But yeah, when you're a naturally talented singer, you can get away with a lot for a long time.
You can get away with so much. I think this is probably the biggest thing that I've had to learn how to do is how to learn, because I was singing music I didn't really care about. So I never practiced. I never learned how to truly read music and sight sing until after college, after graduating with a degree in music. I didn't know how to practice. I didn't know how to do really anything. And that's something that I've had to figure out a lot by myself. And now I write my own music and I play guitar and that bulb and stuff. That's been really, really challenging for me because I was not good at it at first, but I, for the first time, really felt like a drive. And I was like, I want to be good at this. I want to learn how to do this. I want to practice. I want to get better. And I had never felt anything like that except for when I was like, I want to learn to sing like Christine Dye. And then it works.
Like that's necessary. You know, that's so necessary. I think you brought up like 5 really important points here that I think no one talks about, which is A, are you going to practice unless you really actually like the singing? And how do you it's also about quality of practice, but it all really comes down to focus and desire. Is there anything really wrong with a younger voice just exploring their voice and wanting to express? Which maybe, it's hard when you're told as a young person, you're talking about rules at the very beginning of this episode. When you talk to a young person that's literally just trying to express and have an outlet, that there are rules to their expression. And both can be true, right? We probably need to learn how to physically have that container for ourselves and learn to use the instrument. And we need space to express and not freaking worrying about it. And I don't think until your brain is fully formed can we even hold both of those truths. So it makes sense as a younger singer, if you were being forced to do something you didn't want to do and sing in a way you didn't want to sing, why you wouldn't have any desire to do that. That makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of singers can probably relate to that.
In some ways, like, do I want to practice all the time? No. I have to set aside 30 minutes to an hour and I have to think about it and make choices. And I would rather scroll on TikTok or snuggle with my cat or, I don't know, scream into the void. But it's something that...
especially now.
Especially now. But it's something that it's like, I really desire the end goal. And I've been also able to find some joy in just like the routine of practicing, even if it sucks a little bit to do it. But I don't have this same like complete aversion and like shut down to it that I used to when I thought about practicing. It just like, I would sit in the practice rooms maybe and like look out. Every single one had a window. Oh my God, what a luxury. And I would maybe like sing the high notes over and over, but I didn't care. And that felt like a big, scary thing, especially at my college, because I went to like a small liberal arts school, so not like a big music school. So I was like one of the better singers there. And so it felt like people were looking at me, and they were like, oh, Lily is so good at singing and technique. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't particularly love everything I'm singing. I don't want to practice and I can't read music. Why are you looking at me? Why are you saying all of these good things about me? I had like such imposter syndrome about it.
That's honestly, I'm so glad this is the whole point of this podcast, is to be transparent about this shit. Because honestly, I feel like so many singers feel that way. They're naturally born gifted. Maybe there's a lack of, I wouldn't even say drive, but like direction too. I think for young singers, it can be really overwhelming of like, what is good technique? I know I'm supposed to sing with it, but I'm also told, like, I'm told to be afraid of trying things because it's dangerous or bad, or I'll look like a bad singer if I sound bad. So I'm not going to step outside that comfort zone, but I'm told I do this thing. Okay. But then it's also draining my soul to sing this way because just because I'm good at it, is that really the way that I want to express? And then there's this whole element of like, to actually see improvement, and maybe you do want to sing a certain way, you do need to have focus discipline to be able to get your muscles to coordinate in a different way and align yourself up in that different way. So it's almost just like this clusterfuck of confusion that happens for so many singers. There's so many conflicting emotions. So you're talking about like, there's a lack of desire to practice because maybe you feel trapped in a style that you don't feel like you actually want to express from. So there's that. And you're already being looked at under a lens as like, you're supposed to know what you're doing. But meanwhile, you're like, I'm just, trying my best here. But where was this shift? Because you're talking about before, even in college, you're like, I didn't want to practice, but I was there just riding off of my talent. But when did that shift for you, when you finally said like, hey, like, no, actually, I do want to understand this and I do want to learn? Like, it almost sounds like it was empowerment. It was like a decision that happened of like, I'm going to choose to look at this differently. When did that happen?
This is like a fantastic question. I don't think I've ever really thought about this as part of the journey, but it for sure is. Let's see. I graduated in 2021 into the pandemic, which was a horrible time. Horrible time to graduate, especially as a voice student. Like my senior recital, we filmed it in my friend's apartment and it's on YouTube. And that was the ending I got. I was supposed to sing with an orchestra for the first time. I was supposed to do a summer program in Florence. There was one in Montreal that I'd also gotten into. I was supposed to do all these things, big classical music things, really. And they all got cut, which felt really terrible because I'm grieving my senior year. I'm grieving all these experiences I was supposed to have. But if I had done them, it would have cemented me further on a classical path that I didn't really know that I wanted. I think the shift really happened. I was back in like my hometown area and was singing in some choirs. I was getting paid like $100, $150 to come in as a ringer, essentially.
Okay.
And
like a segment leader.
The sopranos are weird. Lily will fix it. And I was like, okay, sure. And that was like totally good and fine. And another local choir person reached out to me and was like, hey, someone recommended you to me. So they were like, come sing this music and we'll see, you can have the job or whatever. And she gave me this music. I can't remember what this was. It was some classical something, Bach, maybe. I have no idea what it was. Some cantata. I don't know. And I had it for like maybe like a week. I did my best to learn it. One of the issues was that the music that I received was like a whole step down from all of the recordings on the internet. And so my ear training was not gonna help me here. I did like go on digital audio workstation and like shift the pitch down, but it was not enough. So I went to this audition to meet this woman, and the first piece of music is like in 5/8. And
as a singer that's like, again, been riding on raw talent until it bites you in the ass and you don't know how to read in 5/8. Oh no.
Mm-hmm. I stumble so bad. And then she's like, let's try another one. Same thing. I can't do it. And so she stops and she's like, I would pay you top dollar if you were able to read this. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
It's a good punch.
It felt absolutely crushing. I like went home and just cried. I think I cried a lot. Somehow she still gave me the job, which is absolutely insane. But I think she was like, you're a good singer. She then invited me to like take a class she was teaching on sight reading.
Okay.
And I did. And it finally clicked for me. She's like one of those people who is like maybe seems like a little bit like a hard ass, but like definitely cares about you and like wants what's good for you. For me, I'm the type of person who I need a push sometimes. Like there have been many other periods of my life where I'm, not doing as much as I can with singing, especially. And someone is like, hey, you need to essentially get your shit together. And I do. I remember in one of the lessons, it was like just me. It was a class I was taking with some other people too, like local choirs. But one of them, it was just me. And I was having like a really hard time with something. I don't know, polyrhythms or something. I don't know.
Oh,
and
yeah,
as one does.
Polyrhythm.
And I cried because I'm a crier. Anytime I had to sight read before that, I would just cry, like in high school for like all states and whatever. I just cried. So I cried. And she was like, listen, I'm doing this because I graduated from Juilliard and I didn't know how to do this shit. I want to help other people like you. She's like, you're talented and I know that you can do this. And then I had not realized that she went to Juilliard, the school of all schools. Part of the reason I went to a liberal arts school was because I didn't think I was good enough to get into conservatories. So I just refused to audition for them. That was a whole other thing. But that was a school that like, when I found out about it, I was like, oh my God, I should like totally go.
Everyone hears Juilliard and they're like, that's where I'm going. Or maybe I should go there. Or if I go there, then that means I'll be worthy of having success. That's a whole other conversation on
that's a whole other separate thing. But I was like, if this woman went to the music school of all music school, the art school of all art schools, like, and she didn't know this, then like, it's also okay that I don't know this and that I'm learning it now. Do I wish I had learned it earlier? Absolutely. But she gave us homework every week. I did my homework. I practiced. I sat down at the piano. I tried to learn my, chords, my triads, play a scale, actually understanding what the time signature 5/8 meant, learning how to sight read and use solfege, which was something I was already familiar with. Felt pretty confident in solfege, just based on like singing and warm-ups and stuff. But then like actually looking at a piece of music, seeing how it translates, and then being able to sing it. And then I think that for me, it was like, I learned to do the thing that I was the most scared of in a way. The thing that I thought, because I couldn't do, made me a fraud, that I was so embarrassed to admit to people. I learned how to do it. So if I can do that, I can probably also do other things.
That's such a great story because it's like, first of all, there's so many more singers that, again, the whole point of this, like bringing things to light, there's so many singers that feel like frauds because they can't read. And it really bites them in the ass, right? Especially if you're a professional singer, there is going to be a moment where you can't just rely on your ear anymore. Like, you need to learn things quickly, right? It's actually something differing in our stories that I think something that can really help young singers is pairing piano lessons, especially. And I know, like, again, the kids can be the same. They can be like, I don't like this music that this person's giving me. I don't care. I don't want to practice, da, 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 da. But what it can do for, if they want to sing, it can at least teach them at the same time to read. It can teach them, basic music theory. Do singers need to have the ultimate understanding of music theory? I don't think so.
No, like
I'm not an expert in music theory at all, but I know enough that I look like an absolute badass in rehearsals because I can be like, and guess what? I did not learn with solfege. I learned with thinking, actually, really memorizing. And a lot of people that I know that have really good ears and that can read and sight sing like very well, it's almost like I memorize what the notes feel like in my body.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really, as a singer, learning to sight read, that's what it comes down to. Because you're not playing a piano, you're not playing keys on a keyboard, right? You are the keyboard. And so you have to understand, at least be familiar with what things feel like in your body. And that's why, like, if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't really know what notes I'm hitting, and da, 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 da. That's why I created actually Pitch Please as a program that I made that isn't surrounded. It isn't based in traditional solfege ear training. And it's actually just the basics of like, okay, let's remember what a C feels like. Okay. And not doing like it's fixed do because we center around one scale so that they can feel into it and then move around from there. But then at the same time, another thing about singers and learning everything, you have to pick a key. Like we were just saying, like when we first started singing, we mostly sang in chest voice. Is that necessarily a bad thing for like a very young singer? Really? Because if they're getting confidence, in my opinion, and just, again, learning to match pitch over and over again, getting familiar with those notes, they're not going to want to focus on the breaks or bridges in their voice quite yet. Maybe they need to get higher, but chest voice is the first thing we establish anyway in technique. So I think it's interesting that so many singers start in chest voice. Could we have it go a different way? Do we wish that we would have been ushered around quicker in another way? Sure. But I would say in my experience, and you can tell me after you've sung thousands and thousands of times, you can read what the dot is. I know what that feels like.
The thing that got me the farthest, truthfully, was I was always really good at knowing what certain notes felt like and how to reproduce that feeling. And that was essentially, I think, the only way I knew how to sing, which is fine. And it's super important. But I couldn't do a lot of the things I still wanted to do because it was like the technical training the vocal cords to do the coordination type thing. I could know where the notes were, had a really good relative pitch, know if I was like a little sharp, a little flat, how to fix that, make like small adjustments on the fly. But I didn't have the coordinations that I was looking for. And no one knew how to like teach me that. I actually started teaching before I found IBA, before I met you. And that was just sort of like the way that I was like teaching. I didn't know anything. I was just like, if you can feel it in the right place, then you'll be fine. And that was all I was working off of, which was not great.
Well, I think a lot of at least newer teachers, or I think there's probably teachers that have been teaching for years that really aren't actually trained. So we're bringing this all in a web, creating a picture of the young singer's experience, how we eventually come to practicing, what we actually discover makes up becoming a singer. I think that's what you're pointing out is like, there's layers to learning to sing. There's many layers. That's why it's like a singer that studies is a singer for life. Singers serve for life. Because like we could just go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And it can be musically, meaning like, okay, the notes on the page and we're going to understand logically what's happening. And I'm going to be able to pick up a piece of music and read it quickly. And then there's the physical element of like you were saying, like, that's what we were missing for a long time is someone that could help us as singers understand physically what was happening to get a sound that we want. And that's what we specialize in now, because that was a pain point for us for a long time, not having that piece. I feel like less people are actually good at teaching that. And not only just teaching it, like there's a lot of expert teachers in the big cities in New York City and California and all that kind of stuff. But in small towns, there is less language for that because so many people are just going off of feeling or just going off of raw talent. Right. So now we studied that. How do we convert something that is felt and experienced into language so that there is a physical pedagogical relation, that there's a way to translate that to the student. And then finally, we get artsy fartsy about the purpose of what it means to sing and express. And there's this element of that uniqueness that you're talking about. How do I express from me, from my soul? How, and like literally, I don't even know if anyone can really teach that. I think you can lead a horse to water, but that can stem to like, you know, how blocked are you in expression? How safe do you feel to make the crazy sounds that it, like, beyond if it's technically perfect, beyond if it's even the right note, right? What does it mean to peel back the expression of what it means to be alive as a singer? And like that can go all the way back to like tribal expression. So it's like, what is the focus of the student in their development of life? And I think what's actually fascinating is that maybe the youngest singers are the ones that they just do what's most natural and primal to their heart. And then we get away from that because we're trying to study an art form or study a technical instrument or study a technical thing. Right. So like, even though we've kind of like zigged and zagged here in this whole conversation, it still comes back to, if you're a young artist in your heart, is there a right way of studying? I don't think so. I think it's just like this giant metaphor for exploration and like coming away and returning to learning the technicalities of things. Like, I don't know about you. I mean, it sounds like you're in a different point in your journey, which is beautiful. And I'm so glad people are hearing this. And you're talking about like, I asked you the question of when did you decide that you wanted to consciously practice and understand your instrument? And it sounds like it was almost like the musicality aspect, or like learning like the music theory and the music background that like ignited you because it empowered you, but you were in enough pain to get you to that point, right? It was blocking you. My block was, God, I'm just like heaving because there's so much wrapped in it, right? As singers, it's just everything is like just the most intense thing.
It's
but
so incredibly painful, which is so strange because it's singing. It's singing. It's sharing our joy and our expression and just like having a good time. And there's so much shit wrapped in it.
So much shit wrapped in it. But then, and I think, that's what I mean. I don't think there is any right way. I think it is so personal and then so lonely because how do you share this? How do you convey when your heart is grieving and you don't even understand why? And it might be because you're not able to express with the music that you don't like. Or maybe it's because you want to sound a certain way and you just can't physically get there. Or maybe it's because you feel like an imposter because you're not the kind of And I think for me, like, I know I was originally in pain when I had done all this fancy training. I did go to a top conservatory. I went to one of the top conservatories in the world after Juilliard, University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music. Are you kidding? It was like a top music school. Okay. And we were training with like some of the top opera people, classical music, studying like the right way, quote unquote, to sing. Still was lost. Still didn't understand. Auditioning for Broadway shows. No clue what's happening. Don't know how to get the sound. Everyone's and it's like, it's almost this sense of rejection because it's like the same rules as opera of like, we need this paint, we need this cut, we need this thing. And then you're standing there as the art, like if we're really truly thinking about it, this artist who in your heart needs to be this like vulnerable child in order to express fully. And then, again, that web of, is it technical? Is it musical? Is it physical? What's happening? And then you get in your head, and so that was my pain point too. I can't physically make the sounds. I not even want to sing. I need to sing because I need to get work. I'm not getting jobs. I can't book. And then it comes back to, again, is my sound just not good enough? Like, and it just deeper and deeper into, is my facility that I have just not good enough? But there's that little voice that's like, that child that's like, I just love to sing. And now I'm curious, now that you know these technical elements, I'll share, if I'm completely transparent, like it's not even that the pain ever goes away. I think we get an illusion of having more control over it. I think maybe the underlying issue is the not enoughness that can exist as anyone studying something, the perfectionism, the right way. This is so actually maybe not even about singing. It's just about our ideas of ourselves, right? And we've used singing in our past as a way of elevating ourselves because we were good at something. And then it becomes our identity, right? And then we're like, oh, we need to do it better and better and better. Oh, we need to do it like this. And then you learn to do it better. And now I'm on the other side. I'm a teacher, right? You're a teacher. You get this. And now all I want is to let go and express again. And oh my God, sorry, I'm getting like emotional. It's just like,
no, I'm right there with you.
Oh. And who says that? But aren't we all feeling this to some degree? And if you're not, fucking good for you. I'm happy. But if not, like, good for you. I'm happy for you. But how many people actually do feel this way?
Probably most people. Yeah. I remember one time, I don't know, I was crying or something. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember this thought, which was, if I'm not Lily with the good voice, then who am I?
Oh, jeez Louise.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Same. If I'm not the best singer in the room, who am I? And then you're like studying, and you're trying and you're holding on to that. like there's both can be true, right? It can be true that you are a naturally talented singer. It can be true that you want to just be curious about seeing what you can do. I think that's always the healthiest route, is being like open and loving and curious. And then there's the element that can also be true. That's, but will I never be good enough? Or what if I can't do that? Like there's like several voices, several stories happening at the same time that are all related, but also conflict. So you're just like a crazy person like all the time.
Yeah, it's so strange how it gets so wrapped up in identity. And then if you talk to a non-music person about it, like I remember sometimes talking to my partner, I'm like, I have all of these things and all of these feelings, and it feels like it's so heavy, I guess. And he's just like, well, there's always going to be like someone better than you, but it doesn't mean that you're not good, which, sure, great, fantastic.
Yeah.
But that doesn't do anything to make me feel better. Like I'm always gonna, or not always, but sometimes I'm gonna still spiral about it because I don't know, I feel like I'm 14 again and I'm not getting cast in shows that my friends are getting cast in, and I sing so different from everyone, and that makes me unique, but like not in a good way, in a way that makes me feel bad. I feel like I am still a child and I need validation and I need love and I need someone to like pick me up off the ground and say, you are good at this. That's not just my parents, And I think that part's always going to be there. But for right now, for me, it's definitely a little bit more quiet.
It's something that, can change based off of how you feel about yourself that day and where you are at. Actually, probably mentally, for me, I can at least say that. I think this kind of brings me to the point is like why this podcast is so much more beyond the technical element, beyond the musical element, even beyond the expression element, is the health of the mind, soul, and body that is using the expression, right? I personally think that singing is a healing modality, but just like everything can be tainted with the complications of what it means to like be alive and be a human and not like be flawed, right? I truly think that when we peel back the layers, it really comes down to how we feel about ourselves. When you sing and when you write songs, it's like inviting a window into your experience. But how do we make ourselves feel safe and prove to ourselves that we are enough no matter what anyone else thinks about it or perceives? And will that not even just make us like finally get to an end destination of any sort, but it's rather just improving the quality of your life, because maybe things just become a little bit easier because you've let go of any kind of need to prove or be the best singer or know everything, because we chase these things. And the fact is we are never going to be the best singer. We're never going to know all the things musically. Are we ever, when we're holding this bar so high for ourselves, are we ever even going to achieve the sound that we think we need to finally be enough? Like maybe it's all about simplicity and just owning where you are. Like what are your thoughts on that? Like when you think about this and you talked about it's getting quieter for you, like, it seems like you've taken some steps for that to happen. But like, if you think about it, what are the things that have improved that quality of life so that those crippling thoughts and that not enoughness isn't driving the car?
I think for me, it's just been about being brave. I spent a lot of time avoiding things, avoiding auditioning for a conservatory because I didn't think I was good enough, avoiding learning how to read music, even though it was theoretically going to help me in my college and like whatever, avoiding singing. There was a period in high school I stopped taking lessons and I was just like, I can't do this right now. I thought I was going to go to college and be a cosmetic chemist. I don't know. That was a weird like 6 months of my life. I spent a lot of time avoiding things. And then when I think it was apparent that I couldn't avoid things anymore, but when I had to learn to read music or wanted, I guess, to learn to do it and I did it, then I was like, okay, I didn't die. The world didn't end. And now I have this skill. Like, I don't know. I guess I don't know what I was so afraid of. And I feel
like
like
not that deep. Like, just do the thing. Like,
it's not that deep, but it also is so incredible. Like, it is, but it is. I don't know how to even
also
explain
it. It is, and it's not polarity. Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, again, being an artist, you're a reflection of what it means to be human and being alive. If we know anything right now, there's so much polarity. Both things can be true. It's crazy.
Both things can be true. When I learned to read music, I also had to like learn how to play the piano for my job. That was like an essential thing, and like learn scales, and like reading music and sight singing is a different skill than looking at a piece and being able to also play it on the piano. Different skills. Had to learn that skill set too. And started learning guitar and being bad at it. And then I was like, okay, I've done all of these things. The world didn't end. I think I need to keep going. I started writing songs, and then I was like, okay, I have to at least perform them for my partner. So scary. So nerve-wracking. But I sang them for him, and I didn't die. I survived, quite literally. I don't know if this is like anxiety. Like, I also have like
exposure therapy.
Truly, I legitimately have OCD, so it really might be part of it. Exposure therapy is the gold standard for OCD, by the way. Anyways, yeah, it was like exposure therapy. Truly, the more I was able to make little steps, the more I was able to make big steps. And now I'm like, okay, I can play guitar. I can read music. I can like mix. I'm going to go with 80% of the time when my voice wants to cooperate with me.
You learn the physical elements. You're doing we're always
learned
learning.
The physical elements. I'm writing music. I'm recording it. I'm performing it for people. Like, I don't know. If you had told me all of this in 2020, I just feel like I would not. I don't think I would have believed it, because that person was so incredibly scared. And I mean, I'm still scared, but I know that it feels really good. And I know how to write a song, and I know how to sing it, and I know how to feel it. And that's all things that I wasn't able to do before.
It's almost like you took action until you trained yourself to believe in yourself. It's like,
yeah,
each step along the way, and through this journey of just wanting to express, singing songs you didn't really want to sing, getting away from it, learning how to get back on. Oh, actually discovering you do need to sound a certain way, or being in so much discomfort that you finally take action. And then it was just action after action after action, which does take a lot of bravery. Right. And action looks different for everybody. You know, your action of like, okay, I'm going to take this ear training course because I'm honestly in so much discomfort here, so much pain that I bombed this so hard that I'm finally going to do something about it. I feel like that's more often than not when people come to lessons, or when they finally commit to, like, you know, we had some people on the Discover class that were messaging me that were like, I've never seen vocal progress in my voice lessons, and I'm so tired of that. Like, that's, guys, by the way, if that's happening, that's a red flag. You should be improving. Like, I can't tell you how quickly you should be improving, because I think that's going to depend on the person, but your teacher should be moving the dial a little bit each lesson, no matter what. And if you get a great teacher, they'll move it a lot of it because they're better at picking tools. So if that's happening, again, we are trained in a method of teaching that is very, very efficient, and also is not a super complex thing for you as the singer. I think more like I don't know how Lily feels. Like, I'm going to ask her in a second, but I am like obsessed with our method of teaching, Institute of Vocal Advancement, and going to any IVA trained person is going to hopefully help you feel like you just know what you're doing. It's going to solve that problem of discomfort. And again, there's many ways you can book with Lily privately. You can book with Jeremy. I'm currently not taking students, but if you want to work with me, you know, I have the Pillars series and I have the Discover class, and both of those are designed to put you back in the power, so that even if you can't afford to take lessons with someone every single week, because I mean, if we're honest, that is how
it's expensive.
It's expensive. And although Pillars, you know, it ain't cheap, but it ain't nothing compared to the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that go into like getting really well trained. Anyway, I'm going to talk to Lily here we're talking about stepping into action. And eventually you did step into action as a teacher. You learned to play the piano, you learned to ear train, and then you came to me And then we got your chest voice going and you were mixing like way faster. And it was like this next action step of learning to teach in this way. What's been your experience training as a teacher compared to being a singer? And I've seen huge results in your voice. What was that impact for you? That clarity and that, again, that confidence that probably came once you took that action?
I think, I feel like this is a hard question to answer. Just to like,
yes,
that was like a million questions, Sarah.
Sorry, I'm getting better at this. I'm rusty.
Yeah, like I grew up training classically, and what does that even mean? You know, like I don't know that I can explain it. I know that it's based on bel canto technique, old Italian. That's about what it seems like. I knew about it when I was younger. We learned a lot about breathing. We learned a lot about head voice. And I feel like that was it. So learning with IVA was just absolutely completely different. I was like told, don't think about your breathing as much. It's not as important. And
which is like sacrilegious.
It is a little sacrilegious. It also like, it's again, and I think that's one of those things that like, it really depends on the person. Everything really depends on the person. But I guess the important thing being, it's not as important as maybe you think it is. Lily.
I think it's not the only thing. It's singing where, again, it's a super complex thing. Everything relates to each other. One thing is causing another thing to happen. It is one part of the equation.
It's one part of the equation. And like, I was used to people giving me little corrections like, you know, check in with your support, or can you send it more forward, or can you spin it? Love that one. Can you spin the sound? And I was like, I was able to understand eventually what all these things meant and was able to do it. But like, I had no idea of how the voice functioned. I don't know if my teachers knew that. My one in college definitely knew some things. I think she was like filling in the gaps for herself.
She's teaching at a collegiate level. God, she should be.
I mean, she had a master's and she was, I'm not saying anything bad about her because I truly loved her so much and she was wonderful. And I'm so sorry I never practiced, Kate, if you're listening. But yeah, it was weird. And then with IVA, it was so much more simple, I guess is a word to sort of say. I mean, everything, I feel like I just have to keep giving the disclaimer. Everything with the voice is incredibly complex and etc. blah, 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 blah. But like chest voice is like, can we speak? It's like, okay, I know how to speak. I do that every single day. Sometimes I don't stop. I know how to speak. And so that was an easier way to sort of like get grounded in it. And then I already knew head voice and like I could do head voice for days. I could do it like at the drop of a hat. And so then finding mixed voice in the middle has been more of the journey. But I think truly for me, I've been having like a bit of a block with it. But like, I think I really realized that I'm overcomplicating it so much.
Yeah.
I think singing is really strange because we can get micromanagey, like with ourselves, maybe like with our students or our teachers with us. And that's in some ways good for people and in some ways not good for people because sometimes you get in your head and then all you're thinking about is I have to do this thing, then this thing, then this thing, then this thing. And I think for IVA, a lot of the times it was like, yes, we have all this information, you know, all these things, but now I need you to like forget it for a second and I need you to just do it and just try. Just try. Like, honestly, it's probably going to come out right. It probably is. And it's probably going to sound pretty good. I think the thing that I also really love about IVA is that if the sound feels good to make, it's good. Right?
Yeah. It sounds good.
It sounds good.
Right. It's all about the singer. And I agree with you. It's like, how do we make something simple that just isn't simple? And it's so easy to micromanage and change. But here's the other thing at the end of the day. And I think this is the goal of what IVA teaches you is to not just learn pedagogy, not just get results, but to help to support the student where they are and just to be a good teacher. And to be a good teacher, you have to let the singer, A, create their own opinions about things. B, you have the integrity of holding them in the most efficient and healthy position possible. But C, at a certain point, it is the choice of the singer. And that kind of brings us back to all of this dance, this tango that you can do as a singer. Is it musically right? Is it physically right? What am I going to do with my sound? What is right? What is it? At the end of the day, who gives a fuck?
Yeah, who cares?
As long as it's healthy, who gives a shit? Our favorite singers are often not the most technically perfect ones. They're the ones that are fully expressing. So it's about learning how to use the instrument, going back to expression, how the instrument, going back to expression, learning how to sight read, learning how to use the instrument more. You know what I mean? So I agree. I agree that the way that they have taken something so complex and made it at least a little bit less micromanaging, or at least given us the language to tell from student to student what that student needs, I think has been huge. It's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, I think like quite literally, like the first video for like the keynotes for IVA, there, Spencer, who's one of the teachers and founders, he says some saying that I'm absolutely going to butcher, but it's like
almost along the lines of like, when we perform, we let go of things. So we don't have to think.
Yes.
I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. It's like you learn how to do it, quote unquote, the right way, whatever that means, so that when you're trying to express, you're able to express the way you want. And I think that for me has been extremely true. I think I've always been able to express myself to certain degrees through singing. I feel like that's obvious. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. But I just played a house show Saturday, and I was so worried. I was so worried about it because I'm singing original songs. I'm playing the guitar, and I'm like, I have to mix at least up to a B natural, which is, granted, not that high, but my voice, like B natural, B flat, no. C, C sharp, D, anything above that, yes. And so I was like, am I going to screw this up really bad? And I was super nervous for the first song. And then after that, I was really able to let go. And I recorded it and I listened back and I'm like, I'm mixing, I'm belting, I'm doing everything I wanted to do expression wise. And it was there. And I was able to trust it in a way that I feel like I was able to trust my more classical voice, or / am able to trust my more classical voice and just know that I'm able to do it at the drop of a hat. And that is insane for me. I think when you come from classical singing, especially, you feel like that is the only way to sing. And what's been really interesting is like knowing that the way that I sing classically and the way that I sing more contemporary stuff, it feels so different and yet so incredibly similar. It is more similar than I wanted to believe it is. There's sometimes where I'm like singing something, I feel like my tendency is to like get a little pulley right now. And I'm like, that's because in your brain, you're thinking mix, you're thinking belt, you're thinking all of these sounds are heavy and they have weight.
Like holding on.
I'm holding on because that's what I think the sound is supposed to do. Then I'm like, what if you sing it a little bit more like you were singing like Golden Age musical theater, or like a little bit more like an art song? And what if you have that ease, but you still sing it in a way that's a little bit stylistically different? And that has been the thing for me that's like, oh no, I know how to do this. Like I actually know how to do this. I just like needed a little bit extra, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes total sense. I'm in that place too of like, okay, no, I can do it. I know I've trained in this other way of singing enough that actually now it gets to be easy. And it comes back to what you were saying before about taking action. You drilled it in, and now we trust, and now we get to be confident and trust the work that we've done already, right? Trust that the action step of already doing it is enough. And that at the end of the day, it does get to be easy. It does get to be about expression. right? So in this whole conversation, even though it was definitely windy and zigzaggy, it all comes back to again, being a singer is a reflection of what it means to, it brings up all your shit about how you feel about yourself. This tango of technical versus sound versus expression versus, God, I just want to drop everything. I think there's no right way. Everybody's going to be doing it differently. Everybody's going to be zigzagging back and forth. But I think for listeners and for singers to hear two professional singers who also teach the voice, have trained extensively in many different genres of singing, and been trained to sing in a different way than how we teach now, and have had all these epiphanies and pain and discomforts just like they are. I think it's a really great thing for them to know that like everybody's always learning. Anyone that is a self-proclaimed expert at any particular thing is just full of shit, because there is no such thing with this. It's all about understanding yourself. Yeah, you can understand how to practically and mechanically do something, but at the end of the day, there is really no right way beyond what is good for you and what sound your heart wants to make, as long as you're not hurting yourself, right? So,
right.
Everything you've mentioned today, Lily, has been so amazing. You're talking about all this original music. Where's some places that people can listen to your music if they're curious about your songwriting?
Wow.
You've released some singles here.
This is so true. So currently I have 2 songs out on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music. I think they're on like YouTube, because that's how the distributor uploads them. Title, like you name it. It's just my name, Lily Lothrop, Lothrop. Horrible thing that I have to spell it. I have 2 songs on there. One is me on GarageBand, so it's like a little bit silly. And then I started working with like some local producers and have recorded 3 songs with him. The first one's out. The second one is coming out the day we're recording this Friday. So that's November 15th. So it will probably already be out by the time this episode drops.
Yes.
And then the next one comes out the first Friday in December. And then I think
when this comes out, those will both be out.
Those will both be here. So you can find me on Spotify. Yeah. And I think that's probably all I'm going to be releasing for the end of the year, but be releasing more next year.
Yeah. We'll see how
keep your eyes peeled.
Comes up. Yeah.
Ears
absolutely.
open.
Ears open, eyes peeled.
Ears open.
And again, if you want to study with Lily, she's taking new students. I mean, I'm assuming from the time this is released, she'll still be taking students. And again, really, I think one of the most beautiful things about teaching is often I know the best teachers come to this because it's like almost they've been in pain over something for a long time, and they care enough about other people that they decide to, again, take action on it, learn about it. And then once they help themselves, they desire to help other people, which I think it sounds like that's how you got into it. And I certainly feel that way. It's like, if I can bring clarity and relatability and ease someone's discomfort, not just physically, but like in their journey here, then that's why I started to teach. Listening to Lily, I mean, her passion for understanding things and conveying things is so clear. And she really is excellent at connecting with artists who, again, have this similar arc. And she's already done it, of taking the action, exploring the sounds, expressing and accepting, that beautiful, authentic sound. So if you want to book with her, you can at sarahbishopvocalstudios.com. And yeah, thank you so much, Lily, for joining.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And sharing.
Yeah, this has been a pleasure. Yeah, I feel like just want to say, like, you're like a former choir kid, or, a former talented young musician, or you are an adult and you have a talented young musician. You're just trying to like figure out what you want to do with music. Like, I've been there. I am there. Like, let's talk about it, like, let's figure out how we can make this what you want it to be for yourself. I think especially if you are someone like me who was really embarrassed that you didn't have all the answers and you were so afraid of like making a step. Truthfully, I know people say this about things. Like, if I can do it, anyone can do it. If me, the person who used to cry every single time they were asked to sight read, or, I took AP music in high school and I got a 1 on the exam. I got a 1. I did terrible.
AP music test is really hard.
It is really hard, but I did really bad. And then I had to take music theory again in college. I didn't do great. I passed. I got a B. And then I finally had to take a third music theory class to understand things, to learn how to read, to learn how to play the piano. I had to seek out more information to learn how to teach, because as a singer, you know how to sing, but you don't know how to teach. If you're afraid of making little steps, you can do it. You gotta start small, but you can absolutely do it. And I know, because I did it, and I am doing it. I'm doing it right now.
Thank you so much, Lily. And I think anyone listening to this is gonna relate to that. I think, again, this whole thing, I think more people relate than we think. And if someone's listening to this, sometimes there's something that happens when you're attracted to the right thing that you need to hear at that time. And I just know that your story and the way you look at things, and as we talk about the experience that it is, not even just to be a singer, but to be an artist and to weave back and forth, is hopefully going to bring maybe closure or healing, or just the feeling that, there's nothing wrong with you, right? There's
okay. Nothing wrong with you. Yeah.
It's okay. There is no right way. It's the way that you're doing it is already exactly what it needs to be.
My journey was weird and hard and awful at times, but I truly wouldn't change anything about it, because I'm here now and I know so much more than I ever thought that I would. And I've done so much more than I ever thought that I would. And I'm finally becoming the artist that little me has always dreamed about. And that's absolutely insane. I never thought the path to that would look like this.
That's awesome, dude. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing today. And I know I'll talk to you again so soon. Again, check out Lily. I'll link her stuff down below so you can find it more easily. And with that, I will talk to you next time on the Singer's Path podcast. See you later. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. This helps me get this information out to more artists all over the world. Let's work together to spread the joys of music. Until next time, I'm your host, Sarah Bishop, signing off from the Singer's Path podcast. Thanks for listening.